Hi again, this is Tim Donner, and welcome to another edition of Liberty Nation TV. The battle for the Democratic presidential nomination took what might be a dramatic turn midweek when we learned that Bernie Sanders, at 78, the oldest candidate in a crowded or overcrowded field, was rushed to the hospital with a blocked artery. Now, he'll be down for a few days. He'll probably be fine, but his candidacy may well not be. And what about the other top-tier candidates? How does it affect them? Joining us to break it all down is a man who wears many hats: managing editor, international correspondent, and gaming analyst Mark Angelides. Hello, Mark.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Well, I appreciate it. So a lot to dig into here. Elizabeth Warren, according to the betting odds, is the front runner in the Democratic race. But given that she and Bernie have split the progressive vote at the top of the field, wouldn't you expect this development with Bernie Sanders to accelerate her consolidation of the top spot?
Almost definitely, Tim, in both the polling and the betting. So at the moment, Elizabeth Warren is, to make it as president, it's an 11-5, which it's pretty good. I mean, it's not as good as Trump, who's still hovering around even money. But with Bernie Sanders possibly coming out of the race after this, it's difficult to see how he can recover from surgery and still be an effective campaigner, despite being fiscally the most successful Democrat candidate campaigner cash machine so far. It's difficult to see how Bernie can really carry on. And even if he can carry on, it's difficult to see that he's going to get the same level of support that he has been getting. So this will certainly increase Elizabeth Warren's odds. She's already the front runner ahead of Joe Biden in the betting odds. But in the polling, I mean, as you know, and this is something that you've waxed lyrical about on numerous occasions, Tim, you've got Joe Biden about 30% favorability, and you've got Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders, both hovering around the 15 to 18% mark. So where does that support go? If Bernie's out, where does the support go? It's likely going to head to Elizabeth Warren, which could make the national polling match up with the odds betting and give Elizabeth Warren just the lead.
Well, indeed, the last 10 days have been very kind to Elizabeth Warren, not from anything that she's done, but being the beneficiary of the Ukraine story about Joe Biden coming out, which is inevitably, I think, going to lead to his downfall. We've predicted it for a long time here. But there was always the question about what would happen when that massive progressive vote for the Democratic primary starts not to be split anymore, when candidates start to drop out. And of course, the two big fish, Bernie and Elizabeth Warren. And now Elizabeth Warren already has cut Biden's lead down to single digits, 6 or 7 points. But Elizabeth Warren, it seems to me, is the clear front runner now when you project that Biden is likely ruined eventually, and that Bernie Sanders, 78 years old, with his health now in question. And remember, there was an alarm about Hillary Clinton in 2016 when she collapsed at that 9/11 event.
Yeah.
But she's much younger, 10 years younger than Bernie Sanders. So effectively, Elizabeth Warren right now looks like she'll have the run of the place. Or am I just putting her too far in front at this point?
Well, I'd say your analysis is pretty much accurate concerning Mr. Biden and Bernie Sanders, who we obviously wish a speedy recovery to. But in terms of whether that support will definitely go to Warren, because as you point out, these progressives, they're all divided at the moment. And whether they decide to coalesce around Elizabeth Warren, it's a high probability, but it's not definite, because what you find is with the more, let's call them the more extreme progressive voters, which is who we're talking about here. They have their own little niche issues, their own little bugbears that either make them love one candidate or viscerally hate another. So the fact that they're not already with Elizabeth Warren does give me some pause for thought in that maybe they see her as too establishment. Now, she is saying all the right things from the progressive side right now, but that hasn't always been the case. She always has been, in a reasonably long career, very much a Democratic Party old guard stalwart. And it's only since the campaign that she's really started pushing her progressive roots and policy. So I think you're probably spot on, but maybe the progressive voters won't be so easily swayed.
Well, we'll see, but it seems to me that the Democratic Party has avoided a potential conflagration because at some point, the Bernie voters and the Elizabeth Warren voters were going to have to choose between them. One of them was going to drop, and there was the question of whether one would attack the other or try to undermine. Up to now, they've had sort of a non-aggression pact, which has worked pretty well in keeping Bernie's numbers stable and having Warren's numbers rising. Unique in the field, by the way. Nobody else's numbers have really risen since they entered the race, except Elizabeth Warren. But now it seems, Mark, and agree with me if you will, if the path to the nomination is clear for Elizabeth Warren, you're going to have the most clear choice ever presented to the American people of capitalism versus socialism. Donald Trump, the ultimate capitalist, and Elizabeth Warren, pretty much the ultimate American socialist.
Yeah, I mean, we all suspected that 2016 would be the vote for the soul of America, but I think we underestimated what 2020 brings. This really is going to be a defining vote. Do people choose socialism or do they choose capitalism? Well, let's not call it capitalism. Let's call it free market economies.
I agree.
Yeah, why use the words that enemies of capitalism named it?
You're right, and I've made that point many times, and I just fell into the trap myself. Thank you for correcting me.
So easy to do. So is it socialism, which is essentially a precursor to communism, or is it free markets? And the American people have to decide. And I'm pretty sure that they will go with the free market option. It is, after all, America and the American dream that's being sold to them in this election.
A stark choice is ahead for the American people, and I think you and I and a lot of others, Mark, kind of wish the election was right now to have the American people weigh in on all these things like the Green New Deal, Medicare for all, and impeachment now and forever. It's time for the American people to weigh in. Unfortunately, we're going to have to wait about another 13 months. Thanks for joining us, Mark.
My pleasure.
And thank you for joining us. And if you like this video or learned a thing or two, please subscribe to this channel. You can do it right down there in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. And remember to join us next time for LNTV and all the other things available at LibertyNation.com and on our LibertyNation.com YouTube channel. See you next time.